Chuck Lester is on the village board in the village of Ilion. A full house last night over the water issue. Chuck, I started out in the tease saying how else do we not look at this as years of neglect?
Well, I don't want to classify anything as neglect as much as that I've stated before. It's a simple thing where the stuff that was underground that was put in hundreds of years, over 100 years ago, the thinking was if it's not broke, we'll fix it. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Let me ask you this. Is this current administration willing to do what, and you're not alone. Ilion is not alone. This is something municipalities all over the Northeast, including many of our own. Is this board and this mayor brave enough to do what has to be done? And you know it's going to cost the village money. And that's a brave move versus let's kick the can down. Let's do a little Band-Aid, kick the can down the road because I'll get a couple terms in and then it'll be somebody else's problem. How brave is this board? How brave is Chuck Lester?
Well, do you know me, Bill?
I do. That's why I'm asking the question.
So all I'm going to say is very simply this, that when I ran for office, Brian and myself, we made a commitment to be an administration that effects positive change for the residents of the village. And we were hit with this water thing right off the get-go, right out of the gate, and we hit the ground running. And I've committed myself, and I included all the other board members, Ron Schoonmaker, Bridget McKinley, Joni Moore, Brian Lamica, and myself, that we are going to be a board that accomplishes the goals that we've set. And those are to provide safe, clean, reliable water for all our users. We're going to look at short-term, not Band-Aid, but short-term solutions.
Which you have to. You have to do that.
Facilitate. Listen, the short-term solutions we're going to do are also going to be implemented in the long-term solutions. So these aren't Band-Aids. We're not kicking any cans down the road. We've had some real difficulty this year with the source water, the water running backwards from the wells. We've had the stratification issue where the water loses its oxygen and turns brown. The water from the wells has got a tremendously high iron content. So these things have all really come and hit us hard, and we haven't let up.
Yeah.
We've met with a multitude of DEC people, DOH people, all kinds of funding avenues. And I will say that our engineer, Chris Lawton from Barton and LaJudas, he put on a tremendous presentation last night that went over all the intimate details, of the whole problem in the system that we have. And there's several options on the table. None have been, a definitive decision yet. But we're open-minded. We want to be proactive, not reactive. And what we're doing in the interim is we're applying for emergency funding. I forget the exact title of the funding that we could get, so that hopefully in the spring we can break ground and run a line from the water wells to the treatment plant. So that'll at least eliminate the hydraulic problem. Mm-hmm. And then it will also mix the two sources of water, which is surface water and well water, together. So that might that will help with the blending of the water, if you will. And then we also want to put it a line that will from the wells will also go into the clear well if needed.
Do you have do you have a favorite plan? Is there one that you're leaning towards?
I'm really not. I'm non-committal because we have not seen the dollars and cents that's available. We have not seen the actual final implementation of any kind of filtration that we might do. There's different technologies out there. The Mohawk Valley Water Authority uses a particulate type of a filter, which is very similar to slow sand, and they have more modern technology that obviously if we did a treatment plant, we would go with the most modern technology going.
Yeah.
So there's, it's just, do you spend about, $7 or $8 million more and do our own, or do we move towards becoming a partner with the water authority. I absolutely do not want to be a bulk water customer of the water authority. That does nothing for us.
All right.
If we were to partnership with them and become part of the authority, that might be another consideration.
Okay.
But I've not made any definitive decision at all.
All right, Banansky.
Okay, two things, but I want to begin on something you just said. Why don't you want to be a bulk customer? What's the downside of that?
They just supply us with water.
Yeah, but when something breaks, you don't have to fix it.
For our infrastructure, that does nothing for our long-term goals of having to satisfy. If we just take water from them, we've still got 3 reservoirs and a treatment plant that we got to deal with.
Not to mention you have
our distribution system too,
and failed lines in many cases.
There's not. The thing is that everybody has to understand that when a lot of this stuff was done, it was pretty close to 100 years ago.
Right.
And we have dead ends. We have technically illegal mains in some places because you cannot put a water main in that's under 8 inches anymore. And we have 4 and 6 inch mains all over the village. That's not anyone's fault, but that's just what was done at the time. And we are not going to keep looking back and saying, geez, these guys should have done this, that, or the other thing.
That's fair.
That's over and done with.
Okay.
We have to move forward.
How much money are we talking about to fix the infrastructure, to get this water the way it goes? You talked about funding for line from the wells to the treatment plant. Do you have any idea?
A treatment plant.
Well, right now, if we ran a line from the wells to the treatment plant, that's about a $3 million project. And we really couldn't even touch that right now because we don't have the money.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that obviously we don't want to start breaking ground on something that's going to go underground, at this time of year. I would think that if we could get this emergency funding and we could get all the different departments that have to approve stuff on board with us, we could put this in, and that's a step in the right direction. Because that will remain no matter what happens, no matter what way we go. That is putting that line in is technically long term. It will be a short term solution now, but it's long term because it will always be there as a water source. I
want to ask you just, and this is a little bit of a look back, and I know you don't want to look back, but I need just a little bit of reference here. What does other communities? What have other communities done? What does Mohawk do for their water? What does Frankfort do? Herkimer, Little Falls.
I believe Mohawk and Frankfort are both on well water.
They're both on well water. Why don't they have the same problem?
I got to say this too: that our engineer Chris Lawton, who his specialty is water, he said that this in the short period of time that this administration has been together, we've done more. Wow. Than probably 90% of the people he's dealt with, not criticizing those other people.
I get it, and
I want everyone to know. And I stated this last night that my grandson lives in the village, my daughter lives in the village, I live in the village, all the board members do. We are in the same exact boat, and we want to be the ones. I shouldn't say it. We want to be an administration that corrects the problems that we have.
Okay, but, we cannot ignore the fact that this is a great example. All municipalities should be looking at, not looking down on Ilion, but looking at Ilion and saying, boy, this is, if we do not address as a state and a region, not address these infrastructure problems, we're all going to be in the same boat. And it's a very terrible place to be. It crushes property values. It just crushes a municipality.
Well, there was a report released earlier this summer from the federal government that just said New York State is the worst for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And as I said, we're the Northeast. We're the oldest part of the country. There's water mains, I guess, that New York City still uses that are wood. So, those are the transmission lines bringing the water down from where they source it from. So again, we had there were several people from the DOH there last night, and they have, all these agencies that we've talked to have really enlightened us and given us a great amount of support. Nothing financially yet, but again, you got to wait till the applications can be applied for, and so on and so forth. So there's, we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and come hell or high water, we're gonna correct this problem for and look for long-term solutions well as short-term results right now.
It sounds like more like Heller brown water. But anyway, Bill asked the question about Mohawk and Frankfort. Why don't they have this problem currently, or is it coming? And secondly, if you put a plan together, a bigger plan, could you be the one providing water to those municipalities?
Well, as I've also said in the past, too, I'm on the sewer board with the mayor from Frankfurt, Rick Adams, and I actually talked to him, just threw it out there because, the old saying, think outside the box, that if Ilion was to do a complete treatment plant and get all our reservoirs up to snuff, we could probably easily supply the Frankfurt and Ilion with water. And we could also, if Mohawk got on board, too, and then we'd all three communities have wells as backup, too. And that might be an idea for funding because three communities moving together.
God forbid,
one.
Chuck. What are you thinking? Are you talking using the M word?
No.
Oh, Lord, be careful.
I didn't say that, Bill.
Drinking this stinking Ilion water.
I'm on the sewer board, and this is a perfect example of 5 different communities that have come together and run a really tight ship. And I told people that all the time. So, it can be done. It just, people are afraid of that M word and then the change, too, So,
well, we have to.
I'm open. We're going to get this done, and it's going to really be a positive thing.
All right, I have a few people with questions. By the way, the students of Central Valley are a great indicator of what the M word can result in and what can be accomplished. So, Mitch, who was actually at one point was on the water board. Mitch, you're on with Chuck Lester. I'll give you about 30 seconds.
Okay. A couple of things. I agree with a lot of things Chuck said, including the fact that he and the new mayor, Brian Lamaka, made this a top priority. I also think Chris Lawton did a good presentation and answered some of the questions you've already been asking, Chuck. I would also say this, and this I don't think he's heard me say. There is a municipal utilities board after they abolished the Water Commission and Light Commission that was established. Chuck was on it. Brian was chairman. I talked to the current chairman, Don Peterson, yesterday and said, what are you people doing? He said, we can't get a quorum. We haven't had a meeting in a while. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, we haven't been meeting. That's simple. I go, but you're supposed to be advising the village board on what to do, and you're not meeting? So I'm delivering a letter today volunteering, if they want me, to go on to the Municipal Utilities Board to help the village board.
What do you mean they can't get a quorum? The members aren't showing up?
That's what he said. He said to me, and I said, in other words, do you have 5 members or whatever and only 2 show up or what? And all he said in response to my question was, we can't get a quorum.
All right, Chuck, comment. Listen to his answer. Mitch, I'm going to hang up. Chuck, comment on that, could you?
I don't have an answer for that, other than the fact that the board was really, I want to say more or less dysfunctional for the past however many years. Really hasn't done much of anything, and it's an advisory panel anyway.
Okay, so
and we've been busy with the water stuff and not really too worried about.
Okay, fair enough.
Just a commission that really.
And
I served on it. We made all kinds of suggestions, and they didn't get done. So
and I want to ask you. It seems like your engineer, his specialty is water, and you're getting not to listen. I could run for the board too, and I think I know a lot of stuff, but there's much more that I don't know. So you're reaching out to people who are specialists in the field of water.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And, Bill, like I said last night at this public hearing, that there's a lot of people that look at the bureaucracy such as the DEC and DOH and stuff like that, and me being one of them. And now that I'm there and I'm sitting down with these folks, they're not a bunch of evil people sitting in some back room trying to come up with a bunch of regulations that, inhibit anybody doing anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? They've given us a tremendous amount of information and enlightenment. And, based on all based on the situation we have to reach out to people that are the experts. And Chris Lawton, as far as I'm concerned, is worth his weight in gold for what he's doing for us so far. He submitted pretty close to a 400-page report to all the various agencies that have to get it so that we can move forward with funding and, applying for funding through the different agencies and stuff like that.
All right.
And, I know it always goes back to funding, but that's That's really what it is.
I got to tell you, I don't know if everybody knows, and I know Chuck, and I've known Chuck for a long time. This is a groundbreaking moment. What you admitted here, I got to tell you, I'm so glad you won, because I feel that you are really being constructive in this, and you're making tough decisions, and you're willing to push for fixing this once and for all, versus kind of doing what's right for, to make it look like you're moving forward. You seem to be really in a concrete fashion getting something done.
I don't want to sound like I'm at a pep rally or something.
Yeah,
but I am very pumped up and excited and enthusiastic about this group of people that I'm affiliated with. Bridget, Joni, Ron, and Brian, and Chris Lawton, the engineer, and Bruce Morgan, and Kenny Scott, the Mary Jo, our treasurer, Laura, our clerk. There's enthusiasm there that I'm told wasn't there in the past, and I'm not going to throw any stones. But we're pumped up. We're going to get stuff done. We've made these commitments to ourselves. So, and I'm not going to let me down. So I'm certainly not going to let the village residents down.
One more. Wayne is waiting. Been waiting for a while. We'll wrap it up. Wayne, you'll get the final question. Go ahead.
Where does it leave the restaurants and pizzerias that make their own dough with water and all these other things they do with water? Where does it leave these restaurants? And usually, I'm going to let you go. The fix-all to everything is put in a roundabout.
Okay.
All right, I'll let you guys go.
Okay.
I don't want to get a ticket.
Thank you, Wayne. Yeah.
The only thing I'm not really familiar with what the restaurants are doing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that in most cases they probably got the water filters in place and stuff like that, so they can still use the water.
Yeah,
I can't say because I truly don't know.
Being that I have a little bit of knowledge on that, and without getting into it, but I got to tell you, they can't even make coffee when there's a boil water order in place. You can't, because coffee doesn't come up to the level of boiling the water. The coffee makers. So it creates
I've made coffee for years when the boil water's out.
Chuck turned out just fine.
Chuck, look at he's huge for God's sake.
Remind me that if I ever stop over.
All right,
hey, listen,
Chuck.
Billy, thanks for your time, man. This has been great. Like I said, I'm enthusiastic. The board is pumped up, and we're going to make some real progress in the village. And I hope that some of the other communities can kind of look and see that this is how you get stuff done. You got to push, and that's what we're doing.
Nice job. All right, Chuck. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Okay, God bless.
Chuck Lester in the village of Ilion, when he said, because he was one of the biggest ones to say this, these organizations, regulations, they're wasting our money. For him to sit here today and say, you know what, I got to tell you something. Being on the inside now, I see it somewhat differently. That's a big man. I give him a great deal of credit for saying that. And it's also important to have your representatives do the things that need to be done. And they're in the perfect position to do it right now because the water's brown.
Yeah.
Now's the time to do it. You're going to have the community on board.